Yesterday marked the last official day of training camp, so today started a new chapter of this season, something Coach Belichick calls the transitional week, with the first game less than 2 weeks away.
Well, we're moving into, kind of another phase here.
And the veteran all-star Patrice Bergeron netting the game-winning goal in double overtime last night for the Boston Bruins in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Carolina Hurricanes. Just last week, the sports world was rocked again. After the shooting of Wisconsin man Jacob Blake, athletes alike took a stand. Games were postponed and practices were canceled across the major sports, all part of a shout for change. And in New England, it's leadership that continues to push that conversation forward.
I'll say this, I've never been more proud to be a part of this organization.
A trip to the Super Bowl on the line in Kansas City. AFC title game action. One team you might expect to be there, the other, the 6th seed, the underdogs, a team that really has you wondering, will you remember the Titans? Just a few moments ago, the NFL and NFL Players Association made an agreement that there is going to be daily coronavirus testing all the way through September 5th, which is the week before the regular season begins. Now, what everyone is keeping their keen interest in is that quarterback competition. And quarterbacks coach Jedd Fisch spoke today and said he is extremely impressed with Cam Newton's progress and the leaps he's making each and every day. This past week, Orange Nation was blessed with a verbal commitment from a 5-star player. This guy right here, Dior Johnson. If you look behind me, Clemson and Miami just took the floor for their warm-ups. They're playing at noon, and the winner of that will take on the #1 seed Florida State tomorrow, who just got off the floor for their practice. But the big game is tonight, Syracuse, North Carolina. In an already shortened MLB season, you have to turn your season around at some point. And tonight's that night for the Boston Red Sox, who stare straight in the face of a sweep. You have guys walking into the building with chips on their shoulder, just chomping at the bit to get that opportunity. And for one young hopeful in New England, the opportunity is exciting, but it's not just for himself. It was the day that sports stopped, when they locked all the doors to the gym and the ball stopped bouncing. That's when Newfield and Marathon's dreams at a state title stopped too. Now in dire need of a win, the Orange hungry for a win. And what better place to be hungry than at the KFC Yum Center down Interstate 71 in Louisville. But it was all Cardinals in the early going. Ryan McMahon with a deep three. Just minutes later, Emily Hairshut, part of the Do-It-Yourself program, coast to coast, and nets it. She must have borrowed whatever Chase Scanlon was having for dinner because she matched him with 7 goals. Mahomes here, showing everyone why he was last year's MVP. Chucking it 60 yards downfield, Sammy Watkins. And he's going to keep on running to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs heading to their first Super Bowl in 50 years. Now let's go to the NFC title game in Santa Clara. Niners-Packers. Ever heard of this guy, Raheem Mostert? We'll keep a tally on him. Here's one. Hits the hole, untouched, 36 yards for the score. Get the surfboards out. Niners strike first. Sloppy play from Utica here. The turnover at the blue line. And it's a 2-on-1 break. Alexander Volkov off to Jamil Smith. The give and go. Back to Volkov. Beautiful execution. The Crunch go on to win 4-2. Final moments of the third. Look at the hustle here. The local boy, Griffin Cook from Janesville DeWitt, chases it down and delivers a strike off to who else? Chase Scanlon, number 7 on the day. Just last week, the sports world was rocked again. After the shooting of Wisconsin man Jacob Blake, athletes alike took a stand. Games were postponed and practices were canceled across the major sports, all part of a shout for change. And in New England, it's leadership that continues to push that conversation forward.
I'll say this, I've never been more proud to be a part of this organization.
2020 has been a year of uncertainty and ambiguity. From a global pandemic to tragic events leading to the fight for racial and social justice. So in order for their voices to be heard, teams are leaning on each other.
Without going into too much detail about those conversations, I would say that they were productive. I think it's been a time for our team to really come together and grow.
The NBA was the first league to start the movement in pro sports when multiple teams boycotted their playoff games last week. Something Matthew Slater says set the precedent for athletes using their voice.
I really have a ton of respect for those guys in the NBA making the decisions that they've made, leading in the way that they have, that they've been unashamed, unafraid.
And that paved the way for the NFL and the Patriots to unite during these times.
You look out in our country right now and there's a lot of division. And I think if we can be an example of unity, I'm all for it. So I fully support them and that movement. And like you said, couldn't be more proud to be a part of not only the Patriots and our great community, but the NFL community as well.
And two Patriots who portrayed their emotion to the media last week were brothers Devin and Jason McCourty, and they've used that pain and hopelessness to bring their team together.
I'll say this, those are two of the finest men I've come across in my life, and that goes for inside and outside of football. They're men of purpose and passion. They give a lot of thought to the things that they say and do. They operate out of a place of love and understanding and caring.
The McCourtys using their hurt and pain to lead a group of men in the locker room.
There's something special about being in this locker room, and I'm so thankful that I'm here to be around those guys because they're such great leaders. And I, when stuff like this arises, you look to them.
Leadership that continues to build, even for something much bigger than football.
They are the glue that holds the locker room together, and there's a true love for one another in that locker room, and it's something that I wish everyone in America could experience because I think it'd be a much better place.
A theme from last week's conversation with the McCourty brothers highlighted hopelessness and pain, and they asked that other athletes and their teammates join them in using their voice. In Foxborough, Cole Johnson, New England Nation Extra. Yesterday marked the last official day of training camp, so today started a new chapter of this season, something Coach Belichick calls the transitional week, with the first game less than 2 weeks away.
Well, we're moving into kind of another phase here in terms of the ending of the training camp period and the beginning of the regular season preparation week.
In less than 2 weeks, the Patriots open up the 2020 season as they host the Miami Dolphins. So for Coach Belichick, he says training camp mode is over. It's now time to prepare for the regular season.
It will be closer to game type situations and as well as obviously continue to work on fundamentals and basics, but we've got to move forward so that we're ready to actually play a game.
With no preseason games, the transition period has been much different from every other season. It's all about adjusting.
Just adapting to a new way of doing things. Obviously, no team has preseason games to get ready for, so you try to replace them with the best way you can, but we are just adapting.
And these players are aware that they have to control what they can control.
We're in uncharted waters here. I think the thing that we can't control is our effort and our attitude each and every day. We have to come in with the right mindset and understand there's a lot of work to be done. But the reality is that every team is in the same situation, the same boat, so to speak.
So before they can prepare for Miami, this important week of practice is about raising the competition amongst each other.
We still have competitive periods and periods where we're working against each other, where it's not structured for an opponent, but it's more fundamentals, techniques, or situations that we can compete against each other on.
Now, Coach Belichick has made it very clear that they've had several weeks now to fine-tune their fundamentals, and now they're in the part where they have to start to execute it. In Foxborough, Cole Johnson, New England Nation Extra.